We wanted to talk about how you don't have to manage your partner's meltdowns and it's okay to stay in your own lane. And this topic came alive for us last week because I found myself trying to manage one of Angus's, it wasn't really a meltdown, but it was just, how would you describe it?
I don't think it was, by any stretch of the imagination, a meltdown per se. I think I was feeling resistant, and perhaps he didn't like that.
I think there was a little bit of histrionics going on.
Histrionics seems again a bridge too far in terms of the description of my state of mind, but I was definitely feeling overly resistant to the matter at hand.
So there's definitely separate realities going on.
I'd say so, yeah.
And you know, why this topic came up for me is that in the midst of it, what I realized was that I was spending what felt like quite a long time to me, maybe over an hour, sort of trying to help Angus work through whatever your resistance was, whatever I was perceiving as histrionics. And all of a sudden it occurred to me, it's like, I don't need to manage this. I don't really need to be involved. He's just having his own thing. And if I leave him to his own devices, then he'll probably be happier. I would probably be happier. And wouldn't that be a much easier way to go? And so I just noticed how that was a blind spot for me. I didn't realize that I was getting overly involved and trying to manage his experience. And innocently, I was thinking I was trying to help him. But actually, my resentment was building. And I'm sure you didn't feel like I was helping that much. And so it just felt like that would be something good to talk about.
Yeah, and I think that in my usual fashion, whenever we do a vlog, I experience this sort of split personality syndrome where I can see the value, I can see the service that hopefully that we're providing, and there is higher ground with which to view the whole situation. But there is nevertheless a part of me that feels really embarrassed doing this. And so probably, I think it's a really good idea that you don't try and manage that. Maybe this is a bit much for me to have this expectation of you, but you could ignore histrionics, as it were, and we could have an agreement about, yeah, you know what, we're on set and we're performing at this point, and anything that happens between now and that point of performing is maybe part of my creative process. And if that's a meltdown, so be it. But I think that when I show up, and I don't even have time to think of all of the negative future fantasy I get into about being an imposter or feeling uncomfortable or feeling embarrassed, because that's generally where my mind goes. So I'm in this sort of like state of conflict, and all I'm really doing is just like verbalizing that internal conflict, and then it's very typical for someone in relationship, the other party, to want to try and come in and manage it, because it doesn't make any sense, it's not rational. Mm-hmm. But I'm going through this sort of like internal turmoil, but I guess the learning for me is perhaps to not say it out loud. But you're getting to experience the craziness of my mind, this sort of pull back and forth, this tug of war. Oh, I'm providing a service. Oh, I must sound like a complete idiot. And that's really what I go through. Maybe that's just part of the process. But when you press the button to record, then I'm having to show up. I'm having to like let all that go.
Yeah.
So I think that just maybe is part of the experience.
You're very good at showing up in the moment. I don't feel I'm as good as you at showing up in the moment.
I'm pretty confident I can rise to the occasion, but I can experience a great deal of resistance beforehand. But I think this is a very valuable topic to talk about in terms of how we try to manage our partner's meltdown, because really there's nothing for us to do there. It's, you know, I do think of yet another Einstein quote, trying to get a different result by doing the same thing over and over again, or trying to solve a problem at the same level of consciousness that it was created. It's like there's no chance. Mm-hmm. And that would be you know, that would be very self-evident in those moments where we try to manage our partner's meltdown. We're trying to sort of like get, in a sense, I think it's very easy to get to their level, and really, you know, best leave it alone, let it pass through like a black cloud that will eventually reveal sunny skies.
Well, it's the same thing that we can do for ourselves. Like when we realize that, oh, I'm just having low mood thinking, I don't need to buy into that, I don't need to try and fix it, I don't need to change it. I've got better at sort of leaving that thinking alone. Well, what I'm realizing is that sometimes I take your low mood thinking seriously and I engage with it in what I think is a rational conversation, and it doesn't ever go anywhere because it's not a rational conversation, and that it's on me to realize, like, oh, that's just Angus's low mood talking. I don't need to get in there and engage with it, and that there's nothing wrong with you having that experience or being in a low mood, and we'll still be able to get things done eventually at some point when you come back to yourself, and that and having room for that in relationship, I think, is really important. And I think that, you know, for whatever reason, my conditioning, I tend to want there not to be low moods in our relationship. I tend to want us to be in a good feeling and getting along. And of course, you know, I'm sure you do too, but I can see how there's more room for me to be comfortable, not just with my own emotional experience, but there's room for me to be comfortable with all of your emotional experience.
Yeah, and I'll speak for myself because, you know, I don't know what your experience is in those moments, but say the shoe was on the other foot, I think there would be a strong drive within me to want to manage your experience so that I can create this sort of culture of well-being, which is a far more comfortable place for me to reside. So by virtue of the fact that I'm trying to fix you from that place, there is a level of mood or a state of mind that is not particularly positive on my end. I'm trying to go in and grind away a result that's satisfactory to me, rather than just to leave it alone. There's nothing for me to fix or do here. It's not my job. You will come back into balance of your own accord. But if I feel like I need to rush in and fix it, that's basically a reflection of my state of mind, and it would be good for me to have an awareness around that.
Absolutely. Me too. And so that's what we're saying for you, is that in relationship, do you have room for your partner's low moods, low mood shenanigans in terms of how they get caught up, and sort of the meltdowns, or I don't know what you want to call it. I know I'm not saying you had a meltdown last week, but all of the things that can happen when someone's in a low mood. Is there room in the relationship for that, without taking it personally, without trying to manage it? And what I'm saying is that I'm learning how to have more room for that. It's not always easy, and that I can see how what happened last week, I had kind of an aha moment where it's like, oh, I'm not making room for your human experience, and hey, isn't this a great opportunity to do that? And it felt much better for me, and I think it felt better for you.
Yeah, and the real high ground
Yes.
in that situation is to see the other party's suffering, and have compassion for that, and that would be the greatest vantage point for anyone to view that situation. And I think in that experience, when one of us finds this sense of compassion, the other party automatically starts to feel better because there's nothing for them to engage, you know, to lock horns with. So I guess, yeah, I would like to think that's the ultimate learning in those moments, is like, how do you have compassion for this person when they're sped up, when they're caught up, when they're having a meltdown, when they're having histrionics? It's kind of like, I feel like that's almost the healing balm that the person who's having the meltdown is looking for. You know, on one level, they feel like they're having this hissy fit, they're having a meltdown. It's like a child, basically, who's having a temper tantrum. Ultimately, that child, all they want is to be loved and held. And in a sense, that experience of compassion is a sort of a way that we can love and hold our partner who's kind of maybe falling apart, it seems. I don't know.
But before I can have compassion, I need to actually understand what's going on.
No,
because I
absolutely.
think I would get duped. Your, you know, whatever words are coming out of your mouth, I would be like, oh, I need to consider these and take these seriously, and I need to respond to what you're saying, when actually it's just a complete crazy talk.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's kind of, it is crazy talk in a sense. In that moment, in my split personality, I've got two parties trying to win an argument in my head. And my ego generally wants to be the more louder advocate for how it feels like there's injustice, that there's a problem here. And it's looking for someone to rally to its cause. And if you're going to not decide to rally to that egoic cause, my ego is going to have a hissy fit, which is generally what happens. And, you know, and obviously, yeah, when I hit those higher points, when I can see that this is of service, that's probably, you know, there's better communication at that level. But in a sense, by virtue of the fact that I'm having a hissy fit, my ego's got the wheel. And that's not someone to have a conversation with.
I know. Try to help or try to find a solution.
Yeah, because unless you're in complete agreement with what my ego's selling, forget it. Best just to wait for him to sort of evaporate into the illusion that he always was.
That's right. I've got to see through the ego.
You do.
Well, hopefully you can have room for yourself to have your human experience and for your partner to have their human experience if you're in a relationship, or anyone in your life that you're in a relationship with. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.